Six Flags Great Adventure, located in Jackson, New Jersey, opened in 1974 under the name of just Great Adventure. Over this park's nearly 50-year history, they've added and removed a lot of rides. However, they currently sit with 14 roller coasters, and in this video, I'll be ranking each and every one of them from worst to best. I have been to Great Adventure twice, once in 2019 and once in 2022, so I think I'm fairly qualified to talk about this park's coaster collection since I have gotten numerous rides on most of their big attractions. Anyways, just to be clear, this is 100% my opinion, and I'm sure you guys may disagree, but without further ado, let's get straight into the ranking. Starting off our list, at number 14, we have the Little Devil Coaster. Now, this pick is fairly self-explanatory. This is the park's smallest roller coaster, and there isn't too much to it other than it being a fairly good ride for the kids. Now, one spot ahead at number 13, we have Harley Quinn Crazy Train, formerly known as Blackbeard's Lost Treasure Train. This is actually a fairly solid kids ride, being a little bit bigger, longer, and more exciting than the latter. However, this ride still isn't super exciting and definitely doesn't compare to Great Adventure's other rides, which is why it places low on this list. Moving on to number 12, we have the Runway Mine Train. Now, yes, I am aware of this coaster's historical significance to Great Adventure, dating all the way back to 1974 when the park first opened. However, I can't just gloss over the fact that this coaster is painful. Its track and maintenance overall really hasn't aged super great over the years, and as much as I can admittedly say it has a solid layout going through the trees and around its area of the park, and a lot of this coaster's transitions are pretty shoddy, but apart from that, I do have to recommend this coaster to anybody visiting Great Adventure, even if it's just for this coaster's historical significance to the park. Moving on to number 11, we have Skull Mountain, the park's only indoor roller coaster. Now, this ride usually takes place in complete darkness, using the fact that you can't see to cover up this ride's mediocre layout. However, I only got one ride on this coaster, and it was when it was in its weird phase, where it had a bright disco ball and loud EDM music playing throughout the entire ride, which was certainly unique. However, as I mentioned earlier, apart from a pretty fun first drop, the rest of this ride kinda just meanders around its small box and doesn't really have any theming, albeit it is still a fun family coaster. Starting off our top 10, we have the Dark Knight Coaster, my preferred option between the two indoor roller coasters that Six Flags Great Adventure has to offer. This ride actually has a pretty fantastic theme. Themed after one of the best movie trilogies in film history, the Dark Knight Coaster takes you on a ride through Gotham City on its Wild Mouse layout of sharp bank turns and fun drops. There isn't too much to this ride, and albeit it isn't quite as thrilling as the latter indoor coaster on this list, I still had a lot more fun on the Dark Knight and would definitely ride this again the next time I'm at Great Adventure. Moving on to number 9, Green Lantern, the park's only stand-up roller coaster. Now, you could consider this to be the park's first adult-oriented extreme roller coaster placed on this list, and that does put it in quite the awkward position. Now, by no means is Green Lantern a bad ride at all. It definitely has more to offer than the roller coasters I've already mentioned on this list. However, it isn't quite as exciting, enjoyable, or comfortable by any ride experience standpoint to the other rides placed ahead of it. The stand-up feature definitely makes it more exciting at the expense of comfortability and re-ride factor, but to me, this is just a coaster that kind of exists. It's alright, and I'll get on if it has a short wait, but by no means am I racing to Great Adventure specifically to get on Green Lantern. Moving on to number 8, we have Superman Ultimate Flight. Now, at least for me, this coaster is in a very similar position to Green Lantern, both being built by the same manufacturer, Bolliger & Mabillard. These rides have two strikingly unique ride experience positions that, in my opinion, are never going to have them ranked super high in the park. And I have nothing against Superman's flying position, and I guess you can even lump in Green Lantern's stand-up position into what I'm about to say. It's just when you have such a unique riding experience, such as flying or standing up, there's almost a limitation on how unique and exciting the ride's layout could be, and that is really the case on these two rides. Nothing against them at all, they're still fun experiences, just I would take 7 other coasters in the park over both of these rides. At number 7, we have the Joker. Now, this is one of the most polarizing coasters I've ever ridden, but I actually have a pretty fond opinion of it. This ride is just plain fun. There isn't much to it that I can explain. Its layout is fairly simple. It's not super tall, super long, super fast, or have any super impressive stats, but the 4D rotating seats truly are chaotic and really do make the ride experience everything, as you can't help but laugh as you get swung forwards and backwards, sometimes even doing a full flip throughout this coaster's layout. Moving on to number 6, we have Batman the Ride, the park's second Batman-themed roller coaster. This one actually places a whole lot higher than the Dark Knight coaster because this ride is extreme, featuring 5 inversions. This might just be the most physically intense roller coaster that Six Flags Great Adventure has to offer, featuring balls-to-the-wall intensity throughout the entire ride, and at numerous points it feels like your feet are about to fall off due to how much blood has rushed away from your head during those moments of high positive G-forces. However, this coaster's layout isn't very diverse at all, pretty much just sticking to intense inversions throughout the entire ride, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. However, it definitely inhibits how high this ride could place on this list, especially comparing to other coasters that have more unique layouts. Starting off our top 5, we have Medusa. The recently renamed former Bizarro floorless roller coaster really surprised me. I hadn't heard much praise about this ride going in, however after I got off I was very surprised. I thought it was fairly smooth for the most part, super intense, and had a very unique layout that I thought was a lot more interesting than the likes of Batman or Green Lantern in the same park. Now, Medusa will never be the world's best roller coaster or anything, but for what it is, it's actually a super enjoyable, fairly intense, and decently long ride, which I've seen to never have much of a wait in my visits to Great Adventure. Moving on to number 4, we have Nitro. Now, if I'm being completely honest, this ride, including its station and its paint, is pretty ugly from off-ride, but the ride itself is pretty awesome. Featuring many steep drops, a couple nice airtime hills, and a super intense helix halfway through the ride, this ride's layout is actually fairly diverse. It also is one of the longest rides in the park in terms of ride time, and if you ask me, this ride doesn't have a dead spot. It just keeps going with that strong airtime that this ride was meant to provide, and that's what puts it in the top 4 of this list. Starting off our top 3, we have the Jersey Devil coaster. The park's newest added roller coaster, at least for now, opening in 2021, has from what I've seen gotten pretty consensus rave reviews, placing it among the best rides at Great Adventure, and for a pretty good reason. This ride is just fun. The park's only single rail coaster features a great mix and a fairly long layout, featuring a bunch of airtime, 3 inversions, and a bunch of snappy elements that, even though this coaster isn't the tallest, fastest, or longest, it really does keep its layout interesting and fresh among the park's lineup of 14 coasters. Starting off, one of the best roller coaster 1-2 punches out of any amusement park in the entire world, we have Kingda Ka. It almost hurts me putting this ride above the Jersey Devil, because that coaster just has so much more diversity and is much longer of a ride. However, Kingda Ka is just pure insanity. The world's tallest and second fastest roller coaster absolutely deserves a spot in the top 2 on this list, and at almost any other amusement park it would probably be number 1. And I am aware that everybody loves to complain about this coaster's restraints, and sure, they're not ideal, but this coaster is perfectly smooth. Its 0 to 128 mile-an-hour launch is pure insanity. The top hat that follows, maxing out at 456 feet tall, is nothing short of unforgettable, providing views for hundreds of miles. This coaster really is a once-in-a-lifetime experience now that it's 2023, and I cannot recommend enough going to Six Flags Great Adventure to ride Kingda Ka. Moving on to the number 1 spot, what is the best roller coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure? Ladies and gentlemen, it is El Toro. This was no surprise to anybody who's visited this park or knows much about it, as El Toro is simply one of the best roller coasters in the world, providing a fairly long, intense layout with some of the strongest and most sustained airtime of any coaster I've ever ridden. And at least in my opinion, no visit to Six Flags Great Adventure is complete without getting at least a couple rides on El Toro. Anyways, that's going to wrap up my video ranking every single roller coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. If you've been to this park and agree or disagree on my rankings, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like rating down below. If you're new here, subscribe for more videos coming your way just like this every single week. I've been hangtimethrills, and I'll catch you guys next time.